This is Audible.
A Day with an Extraterrestrial by Baldin. Narrated by Adrian Sanchez. Truth is a double-edged sword. To get it, we must give up something, like cherished illusions. Prologue. The narrative that follows is a bit fantastic, and therefore some may choose not to believe such things possible. Nevertheless, I am compelled to tell this story and leave it to the readers how much, if any, of the story they wish to consider reality. Chapter 1. One morning. My name is Mike. My age, early 50s. I am married and have 2 children. My occupation is real estate, which I've been involved in for 27 years. That morning, I decided to take advantage of the beautiful weather and go to a park that was 4 blocks from my home. I had a quick breakfast at a restaurant before my leisurely walk prior to going into the office. Walking was a good way for me to keep in shape and gave me an opportunity to slow down and smell the roses, as a wise old saying goes. Besides, I love taking walks in the morning. The park had the usual crowd of joggers, walkers, and a parent or two, with children playing on the swings. Nothing out of the ordinary. That wasn't until approximately 15 minutes into my stroll when a man proceeded to pass me on the trail, and I moved to one side to let him go by. Instead of passing me, the stranger slowed down to my pace and introduced himself as Milton. Milton appeared to be an ordinary-looking Caucasian male, about 40 years old, with a full head of black hair and average build. He was a little taller than I was, approximately 6 feet tall, and he was dressed in a jogging suit. Milton talked to me in a tone that seemed as if we were old friends from way back, but I did not know him. "Hello, Michael Vittorino Bolderini. Remember me?" "Hi. No, I don't. Who are you? And how do you know my name?" I could not believe that he used my full name. I never used my middle name. No one has used my middle name since I was a child back in Italy. "I know a lot about you, Michael. I have known you since your birth on this planet. I am not from Earth. I'm from another solar system located near the heart of this galaxy." That sounded so absurd that I was not sure how to respond. I had talked about such phenomena as aliens and UFOs to others in the past myself. Now, having heard it from this fellow, I could only imagine how foolish I must have sounded to friends and family members that I had mentioned my experience. Nevertheless, I immediately thought this person was a nut for talking as if he were a real extraterrestrial. I have been aware of the UFO phenomena personally and experienced strange situations during my childhood and as an adult while in the military. Yet talking about it and hearing Milton speak openly about being from another planet brought the irrationality to the forefront for me and made me uncomfortable. I opted to gloss over the irony of my awkward situation and attempted to bring the conversation with Milton politely to an end. Or so I had hoped. "Good to have met you, Milton, and we must talk again sometime about life in the galaxy. But I need to finish my walk and get back to the office. Have a nice day, Milton." Having said that to him, I went from walking on the trail to a fast trot, fully expecting to leave Milton behind me as I sprinted away from him. After 5 or 6 minutes of running, I became winded and figured that I could safely resume walking again, foolishly believing that I had put enough distance between Milton and myself. To my horror, Milton had remained a few steps behind me the whole time, on my very heels. I had not noticed him until I slowed down, looked behind me, and nearly had a heart attack. He grinned at my startled look and said, "That's the Vittorino I remember, always trying to get away from me." I shouted back with a slightly elevated voice, "What the hell does that mean? Always trying to get away from whom? Who are you, and why are you following me?" Usually, I'm a calm and reserved individual and slow to anger, but something about that fellow elevated my blood pressure. The stranger named Milton did not answer my query and did not stop following me. Therefore, I stopped dead in my tracks and demanded to know more about him and his motives for interrupting my walk that morning. However, he walked right past me and left me there seething on the verge of an outburst. I stood there a few seconds attempting to regain my composure and trying to make sense of why that person's actions irritated me so much. Yet I could not understand why he ignored my simple questions when he was the one who started this strange conversation in the first place. The tables had turned, and he sprinted away from me. Suddenly, I was the one doing the following and chasing. I did my best to keep up with him because I was determined to get some answers, but I was not sure of my questions anymore. Milton seemed to delight in my puzzlement as he glanced back at me, sped up his pace, and jogged further away from me, as if he knew I would pursue him. And I did. I was confused, but irritation propelled me to seek out why he refused to give me a simple answer to my question. My loss of control made me feel awkward and silly, but not enough to keep me from pursuing and confronting a person that was possibly unstable. Here I was, a grown man, chasing another grown man over a name. Perhaps he was a psychic, or he was an old acquaintance that I had forgotten about. But reason was not with me that morning. It was as if I had lost control of my will and was operating under some external power that had taken me over. Milton continued to ignore me, and as I gained on him, he sped off like a gazelle with surprisingly unlimited amounts of energy. My attempt to catch up to Milton was futile. I was too slow and feeling every bit of my half-century-old body. However, Milton made sure he did not lose me and slowed down whenever I slowed down. The jogging trail stretched around the park, and part of it went through a forested area that was out of view from the rest of the park. That was where we were heading. After entering the trees and the cover they provided, Milton ran off the trail and disappeared into the thick brush. About 50 feet into the forested area, I suspected an ambush from the possibly crazy Milton and stopped chasing him. Having regained my senses, I decided to forget the whole thing and go back to the parking lot where my car was and drive home. As I turned to leave, I noticed something shimmering brightly in the direction that Milton had run off. About 200 feet from where I was standing, there was a blindingly bright object in the woods. There was something next to the object, but it was difficult to see details in the object's glare. My curiosity propelled me to look with more determination to make it out. That is when I saw Milton. He was standing next to what appeared to be a flying saucer. The craft looked like a large metallic frisbee with a slight bulge at the top, but flat on the bottom. It had no visible windows or doors that I could see from where I was standing. As my focus improved, the object began pulsating with assorted colors. Suddenly, it was as if something clicked in my head, and I was able to see it more clearly. The ship had a familiar look, and I was captivated by it, but I was not sure why. The ship hovered about 3 feet above the ground in a small clearing. Sunlight streamed through the trees and reflected off the metal, creating an angelic glow. My focus turned towards Milton and away from the craft. He was waving at me, gesturing for me to come over to him. I wanted badly to avoid his eyes, but he continued waving for me to approach him. There was no clear path to where he and the strange vehicle were located in the thick brush and trees covering the whole area off the trail. I had no desire or intention of going anywhere near the space alien and his machine, regardless of the alluring qualities of his ship. Believing I was in control of my movement, I attempted to turn back and walk in the other direction away from the hidden part of the park. Mysteriously, I somehow knew, deep inside, I could not walk away. I tried not to panic, thinking that perhaps if I remained calm, I could fight the urge that was bombarding my mind to go toward the ship. Remaining calm did not work, and I suddenly realized that I could not move my feet. I could not go forward or backward. I was glued to the spot where I stood. Then a feeling of dread and despair came over me like a tsunami. I could not move my body, but I could move my head. I looked around and scanned the trail for other people on what was normally a busy walking trail. There was no one. I was alone with Milton. The invisible force that held me began pulling me toward the ship as if I were riding an invisible conveyor belt. Then I heard a voice in my head that sounded like Milton's voice. "Do not resist, Michael. This nightmare will soon pass." Milton was speaking telepathically to me. I responded the only way I knew how. "God help me! Christ, what is happening to me?" I yelled, but I could not hear any sound. The lack of sound coming from my lung-powered voice box was a very strange sensation, and I did not like it. I was completely helpless as my body moved inexplicably in the direction of the ship. The trail teeming with people earlier was now oddly empty and quiet. Apparently, that fellow Milton was somehow mentally manipulating the other people away from that section of the park. If true, that was astounding. Yet, there was no other explanation for my being alone there. I struggled with my emotions, and just before my body reached the disc, I lost consciousness, but not completely. I was able to see myself as if I were out of my body. All around me was indiscernible, and yet still clear to me somehow. Chapter 2. Inside the alien ship. A bluish vapor illuminated the inside of the craft like that of a fluorescent tube filled with electrified gas. A corridor wrapped around the interior perimeter where portholes, windows, gave a clear view of the outside and other parts of the park in exquisite detail. A wall on the opposite side of the windows concealed the mysterious interior of the alien craft. The windows were not apparent from the outside of the ship, but stood out as ovals from the inside. The windows seemed to amplify the details of everything outside beyond the portholes. Items of interest for a person inside of the ship were prominently displayed on the window screen, as if the windows zoomed in on exterior objects. The windows or the ship knows what a person looking through the window is focusing on. As I passed through the ship on the invisible conveyor belt that was pulling me or carrying me, details about the ship appeared in my mind, as if old, deep-rooted memories were awakened. There was no noticeable doors into the craft or into the interior of the ship from the corridor. No seams or other hints to where doors might be located were apparent. There were only smooth, rounded surfaces, indicative of highly advanced and flawless technology. The disk's interior was silent. Sound from the outside did not penetrate the ship, and no sound from whatever powered the craft was noticeable. No sounds were apparent from other occupants. If there was anyone else besides Milton and me, they remained silent. I passed into the interior of the ship in a semi-conscious state, and telepathic briefings about the craft emerged in my mind, perhaps from Milton or a mechanism in the ship itself. Then I traveled into one of the spooky interior rooms. Quarantine room. I found myself standing upright, but I was not touching the floor, ceiling, or walls. I remained partially conscious and paralyzed in midair. My arms were at my sides as if I were standing at attention. The temperature in the room was cooler than the temperature in other parts of the ship, and vapor came out of my mouth as if I were in a walk-in freezer at a butcher shop. I could not see Milton. It appeared that I was alone in the room. There were no visible instrumentation or control panels and no means of entering or exiting. The room was like a large cocoon. The compartment was a bluish white and reminded me of an electrified cloud. Moments after I entered the room, guided by the invisible force that had plucked me from the park, a small, spherical object about the size of a golf ball and glowing with intense, colorful light emerged from one of the walls. It permeated through the wall without leaving an exit hole. It buzzed around my head like a large mosquito and spiraled down and around me like a corkscrew to my feet and back up again. It moved at amazing speed, scanning my whole body and neutralizing bacteria on my skin and clothing. That bit of info came from an earlier memory from previous encounters that seeped into my consciousness. During the whole procedure, I remained semi-conscious and fully dressed in the clothing I wore that morning. The ball then moved to my head and touched the very top of my skull, spinning me like a washing machine on a spin cycle. The spinning lasted several seconds, and then I became stationary. My body moved to a horizontal position while I remained stiff as a board, arms at my side, and floating about 2 feet above the floor of the room. The mysterious ball departed the room in the same manner that it entered, but it exited through the floor, as if an apparition. Then Milton's voice came into my head. "Wake up, Michael." Milton telepathically communicated with me from an unknown location in the ship. Upon hearing Milton's command, I instantly opened my eyes and regained full consciousness. Yet I felt I was more conscious of my surroundings when I was in my semi-conscious state, where details seemed much clearer. Groggy and dizzy, I responded to Milton verbally with a question. Where am I, Milton? You are in my ship. Why am I in your ship, and why can't I move? You will regain full equilibrium shortly, after your brain makes the necessary adjustments that were uploaded into it. That will allow you to move about the ship in what you would consider a normal manner. You will be able to orient yourself to up, down, and sideways, even though no such thing exists in space or in this ship, even while it remains parked inside Earth's atmosphere. At that moment, my body floated down and touched the floor of the ship. I jumped to my feet with incredible ease, as if I were an accomplished acrobat. Are we in space, Milton? I feel no gravity pulling on my body, and I have so much energy. I think I could run a marathon without getting winded, like I did earlier in the park. Most of my fear was gone, and I felt great and filled with vigor. I spoke to Milton vocally, as if he were standing in the room with me, yet I was alone in the room. The ship hasn't moved and remains in the park at the very spot where I picked you up, Michael. How long have I been in the ship? My watch is not working for some reason, and I assume it stopped when I entered the ship, perhaps due to magnetic interference or whatever makes your ship operate. Anyway, it stopped at 8:15 a.m. What time is it now, Milton? It's exactly 8:17 a.m., Michael. No way! I feel as if hours have passed. You must be incorrect, Milton. Did your watch stop too? I never make mistakes, and I don't need a watch. It's not even possible that I'm wrong. Only 2 minutes have passed since I brought you into the ship and prepped you for our little trip. I don't want to go on any trip with you. Please let me out of here. You have no right to take me anywhere without my consent, and you are breaking the law by holding me here. Where is the exit to the ship, Milton? There are no exits or doors on my ship unless I create them for you. You may only enter and leave a room or the ship if and when I allow it. Besides, I'm not under any human jurisdiction, and your laws don't apply to me. Fine. Can you please create a door for me so that I can leave this ship and get back to my normal life that you rudely interrupted? Will you please allow me to leave this ship, Milton? I promise I will not press charges if you let me go. I did not wait for Milton to respond and ran towards one of the walls of the room in which I was caged and body slammed against it. I bounced back off the wall in slow motion as if I had hit a marshmallow and gently fell back to the soft floor. I got up and tried again, several times, but finally gave up, though not from exhaustion. I had plenty of energy, but it was as if I were inside a padded cell. I realized the absurdity of my situation and nearly broke out in laughter as if I had gone mad. This is insane, I yelled at the top of my voice. I kept looking for a hidden door. What baffled me the most was how did I get in the ship in the first place, and then into that room? I was trying to figure out how Milton got me in there when he was not even in there with me, yet he talked to me as if he were. I put you in there, and you can only leave when I tell you that you can leave. Do not get excited, Michael. You are not my prisoner for long, and I intend to let you out of that room, but not out of the ship just yet. Now, walk forward and place your hand on the wall in front of you, the spot you have bounced off several times, and then imagine yourself walking through the wall. You are crazy, Milton. The walls are like solid rubber or something. Why don't you just push a button or whatever it is you do and create an opening for me and stop with the mind games? We don't use buttons or switches or magic wands, although some of our stuff works like magic. At least in your mind, it looks like magic because it is not part of your human three-dimensional reality. As for the mind games, well, life is a mind game. Now, do what I said and walk through the wall. I placed my hand on the very spot I bounced off several times, rolled my eyes as if, what's the use? But that time, my hand passed through the wall as if there were nothing there. I walked through the wall, bewildered by it all. I took a closer look at the wall opening, that formidable barrier that kept me prisoner, and found it was paper thin and ethereal in consistency. There was nothing but the illusion of a wall. Corridor. I saw a row of windows circling around the craft, exactly the way I remembered seeing them when I first entered the ship earlier. I went up to one of the windows and looked out. I could see the trees and a small section of the trail from where I had been taken. There were people walking on the trail, but no one was aware of the alien ship sitting off in the woods only a few feet from them. The people went about their lives oblivious to the supernatural situation in which I found myself entangled. I was envious of their freedom, as they moved along the trail and the park lost in their own little worlds of human delusions. Not a single person noticed that I simply vanished while walking on the trail alongside them. Not that I would have noticed if it were someone else that went missing. Most of us come to the park alone and leave the park alone, as we do in life when we are born and when we die. It boggled my mind that no one could see the ship when I could see each of them perfectly and clearly through the ship's windows. Why can't anyone see the ship, Milton? I saw it. I let you see the ship. It remains invisible to all unless I unlock it in their mind, as I did for you. Lucky me, I shot back sarcastically. I pushed on the wall space between the windows, thinking that perhaps I might find a wispy barrier to fall through. I pried on one of the porthole windows with my car keys, but nothing happened, not even a scratch or rip. The material seemed indestructible. I pounded on the glass with clasped fists and even banged my head against the glass. It didn't hurt the glass or my head. The portholes were spaced about a foot apart, and I went from one to the next, testing each one by hitting them with everything I had. Then, one window moved. I thought that perhaps I had found a flaw in that porthole. I scrutinized it, looking for hinges or seals that might have come loose, and concentrated all my energy on that window. I pushed it and smacked it with fists, feet, and my head, repeatedly, and finally, success. Or so I thought. During my one-man rampage against the porthole shot away like a large tiddlywink and landed on another spot of the ship's exterior wall. That was not what I had expected to happen, and I was left standing there, dumbfounded. I was in a freaking cartoon world. The hole from where the porthole lifted away filled instantly, as if the skin of the ship were made of a liquid crystal material, the kind that is used in advanced electronic timepieces and television screens. However, the human version of liquid crystal has no strength whatsoever, unlike the stuff in that ship. Where the porthole landed, the liquid crystal, for lack of a better word, was displaced and a new view to the outside appeared through it. Then, all the portholes went into a shuffle mode and rearranged themselves back into their proper order. It was bizarre. This ship is peculiar to the max, Milton. So fantastically peculiar, it almost makes me giddy, except for the fear factor, which spoils the fun. I can walk through paper-thin walls that are stronger than steel and soft as marshmallows, and the windows can move to any location without leaving a hole. How is that even possible? My ship uses a highly advanced technology, a technology commonly used on many planets which are only a few notches above what you have here on Earth. What seems magical and bizarre to you is everyday stuff in the countless civilizations inhabiting this galaxy. You are not dreaming, nor are you in a nightmare. You are in fact in a place that is much more real than anything you will ever experience in your human existence on Earth. I don't even know how to respond to that, Milton. You are talking stuff way over my head. So are you people like us humans here on Earth, only more advanced than we are, Milton? We are not quite people like you humans are, not in the sense of so-called intelligent life on planets like Earth. There are many shades and levels of existence, and some shades or versions are like people here on Earth, but I don't fall into those categories. Why can't I see you, Milton? Are you invisible? Was your form, your appearance on the walking trail not the real you? You looked and talked like a so-called intelligent human when you approached me during my walk this morning, Milton. You can see me if I choose to show myself, but what you will see when you do see me is only window dressing and not the real way I look, whether it be in a human uniform or an alien uniform. You cannot see me as I really am, at least not yet. I'm not your average Joe, and nothing at all like what you saw in the trail this morning. Milton communicated telepathically and received my words directly from my mind, even though I talked through my vocal cords and mouth. Because thoughts are faster to pick up than the sound coming from my vocal cords, Milton knew my thoughts before I could vocalize them.
That was a huge disadvantage for me during conversations with him. Without warning, Milton popped into the corridor, out of thin air, a few feet in front of me. At first, he appeared to be an apparition, which quickly solidified or phased into my reality. Not that I knew what reality was anymore. He was not the human-looking Milton I chased back in the park. He was altogether a far different and spooky-looking creature from space, and beyond description. I did manage to remember certain features about him before my brain froze up, stalled, and then plunged me into a state of physical and mental shock once the sight of his insidious-looking carcass fully registered in my mind. He was short, about 3 feet tall, maybe less. He had a bulbous head that was not proportional to his body, but much larger, as if he had a tumor swelled up inside his cranium. His arms were thin, as were his legs. His body was trim, yet a bit pudgy in the midsection. I did not notice how many fingers or toes he had, or if he had a skin-tight suit. He did not seem naked or dressed. He simply looked incredibly different from what we humans are accustomed to seeing. Ears did not protrude from his head, only small holes where ears would be. Dominating his figure were large, dark, penetrating eyes, which looked as if they could paralyze a charging herd of wild elephants with one glance. The rest of his facial features were hardly noticeable due to his eyes, which did not allow me to focus on any other features very well. Nevertheless, I managed to remember some details. He had a tiny mouth that was too small for talking. The nose was 2 narrow slits. His skin color was a shade of dark blue with white iridescent splotches that moved as if in a liquid below a translucent layer of skin. The skin was smooth like glass with no wrinkles or scales, and he had a glow around him like an electrified aura or shield that emanated from his body. I blurted out a few words to Milton before the full effect of his appearance knocked the wind out of me. "Milton, I presume? Man, you look totally unnatural and freaky and nothing like I ever expected." The hair on the back of my neck stood straight out like bristles on a porcupine. Adrenaline surged through my body and overwhelmed my nervous system. I remained conscious, but my mind became a jumbled haze of mental images and strange thoughts. As my brain turned to mush, as if it were put into a blender, I did not fall to the floor. My limp body hung suspended in midair like a puppet on strings. Milton then touched my head at the temple area with his strange-looking dangly finger. Or perhaps he was holding some alien object he might have been clutching. I regained a semblance of consciousness on some other level than normal. I attempted to convey my feelings to Milton and managed to stutter a few unintelligible words. "Milton, what have you done to my mind? Everything is a jumbled blur of madness." "Michael, you are not ready to see me in any other form than human form. We program human brains that way, for reasons I'll get into later. However, I will alter that program in your mind today so that you can communicate with me without losing control of your consciousness. Nevertheless, I will remain in the background and out of sight most of the time, so as not to interfere with what we are going to do with you during this encounter." Milton vanished before me, and I instantly regained my faculties and composure. I was completely relaxed, more so than when he first entered the room and overwhelmed me with his appearance. I questioned Milton's methods. "Why don't you appear to me in human form and eliminate the potential for the shock factor and mental holocaust? Wouldn't that make things easier for all concerned, especially me?" Milton replied, "Human bodies, and we use a modified version of the human body, such as the one you saw me on the walking trail this morning, are not equipped to perform well on this ship. The body I appeared in that totally freaked you out incorporates advanced designs and has multiple uses, including the shock effect that you received from it. It is an extremely versatile machine built for the environment inside our vehicles. Those bodies are suited well for our work in this solar system, specifically when dealing with humans and other physical and non-physical forms of entities. We usually block the memory from those we interact with so that our looks are not generally an issue or a concern to our guests." "Well, that's all well and good for you and those who get their memories blocked, but from my perspective, your appearance is disturbing, highly distracting for those like me who remain conscious of their ordeals. Are you going to block my memory of how you look once I leave your ship so that I don't have nightmares?" "I will block some of your memory of me and certain other things you will see and experience today so that your normal life is not completely disrupted or impaired. You will retain various memories depending on how you react to each situation we put you through. I am not in a body now. I am like a spirit. The body you saw me in, which gave you mental indigestion, is a spacesuit for us. Have you noticed how creepy NASA spacesuits look? Can you imagine how someone unfamiliar with them or at a lower technological stage might react to seeing one? Granted, we are much scarier, but same principle. How are you able to see me, Milton? Are there cameras throughout your ship? Or are you in the corridor with me now and using some kind of cloaking device? I am not in the corridor with you. I have a special place in the ship where I remain while in spirit form. There are no cameras looking down on you or in any other place inside this craft. I am fully aware of everything inside the ship, as well as things outside of the ship. I have more than 5 senses. Many more. Are you a god, Milton? No. How much time has passed since you disrupted my life and brought me to this point of mind obliteration? That time thing is not important, but less than 30 minutes have passed since the start of the adventure you are now in. Does that ease your obliterated mind some? Perhaps an adventure for you, Milton, but not for me. Can you speed up time or do whatever it is you have to do so that I can get out of here and on with my real life back in the real world? I do have a life, you know. I'm taking us up in the Earth's stratosphere. Are you up for that? Get it? Up for that? Never mind. Humans never get my humor, perhaps because I obliterate their minds. Anyway, if you wish to watch our ascent into space, go to one of the portholes and take a peek out of the window and be ready to be utterly amazed and jolted out of your sheltered human bubble of existence. The instant I began to walk towards one of the portholes as Milton directed, the ship shot straight up at phenomenal speed. Yet, I felt absolutely no motion, nor did I lose my balance while I was walking from window to window. I looked out one of the windows in time to see the treetops in the park turn into insignificant specks. I watched the continent shrink and the oceans enlarge, and my mind expanded tenfold. Then, the ship stopped dead cold somewhere above Earth without me splattering up against the ceiling of the ship. In a matter of seconds, we traveled from the park and into space without any vibrations or turbulence, as I'd experienced inside of airplanes and on rides with my children at Disney World. We stopped abruptly without any semblance of gravitational G-forces on my body whatsoever. That was certainly not the physics I learned about while at school in the real world. I was flabbergasted at what I saw outside the porthole windows. I did remember past encounters with otherworldly entities, but most of it was blocked or hidden between normal human memories. Those mysterious memories became much clearer that day while in Milton's ship.